Just watch me now.
Welcome to Up My Hockey with Jason Podolin, where we deconstruct the NHL journey, discuss what it takes to make it, and have a few laughs along the way. I'm your host, Jason Podolin, a 31st overall draft pick who played 41 NHL games, but thought he was destined for 1,000. Learn from my story and those of my guests. This is a hockey podcast about reaching your potential. Jason Podolin back here with another episode of Up My Hockey. Today we're talking with Jared Bednar, the head coach of the first place Colorado Avalanche. Now, they are also first place in the entire NHL, not just the Western Conference. And with those types of points and those types of numbers comes a lot of pressure. Some would call it also opportunity. And in today's conversation, we talk about both. How results are so important and how many are pointing to the Colorado Avalanche of not only being the representative to come out of the West, but also most likely to raise the Stanley Cup at the end of the season. Now, how do you balance those types of expectations with the idea of trying to get better and not allowing the results to take the place of the process? Jared obviously is a master at this. You know, he's been captaining this ship for the last 5 years now, and he's seen the growth of the group and the evolution of this group, and they are operating at a very high level. We talk about standards. We talk about keeping those standards and being consistent to those standards regardless of where you are, whether it's a Tuesday or whether it's a Saturday night game or whether it's 2 days before the playoffs or whether it's in September, and delivering on those because they know that they have a bigger picture. They know that what they're chasing and they know what they all want, and they know that in order for that to happen, they have to be very, very diligent to the culture required to get there. Now, we cover that. We cover the pieces of the puzzle that were added here at the deadline. We cover some of their stars. Be crazy not to talk about Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon. So we talk about a lot of good stuff here in this 35-minute interview. Jared Bednar is one of my favorite people in the NHL. I love everything that he's doing there, his coaching staff as well, with Nolan Pratt, guys that I've played with. They're great humans. That whole group, that whole organization is doing great things. So I'm definitely a fan of the Colorado Avalanche and also of Jared. So really appreciate of Jared taking the time here today to talk Colorado Avalanche hockey, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. All right, here we are. Bedsy, back again for round two with me. I appreciate you taking the time. What an amazing time of year this is, and what a squad you got. And thanks for taking the time here today.
Yeah, thanks for getting me back on. Glad to do it.
Hey, man, no problem. I thought I'd be a fool not to reach out again and be like, hey, let's shoot the shit because you got the first place team in the NHL, man. And like trade deadline just happened. And I know you got a new contract this year and like crazy exciting times. What is it like to be the captain of that ship right now?
It's fun. Yeah. I mean, winning's fun, right? So, I always say there's winning and there's misery. And I think that, this season's been a lot of fun. We've been pretty consistent at what we do. We've been racking up wins. We faced some adversity and came through it with guys being injured and whatnot. And I think early in the year, we had a lot of man games lost. We've just kind of started getting our team back together and healthy. We have a couple big injuries now with Landeskog and Girard out of the lineup, some top guys both up front and on the back end, but we just added a bunch of pieces at the deadline, which is exciting. So now just getting all those pieces to mesh and find the right fit and lines and combinations and who they can play against and, matchups and that sort of thing. It's exciting for me as a coach. We have more depth than we've had all year. We've been running pretty skinny on the lineup because of, salary cap restraints, but now things open up and we've added some nice pieces and filled some needs that we feel like that we had to fill, for going down the stretch and into the playoffs.
I definitely want to talk about the additions and even maybe Tyson a little bit on the subtraction. Yeah. But just even talking first of all about the success and saying, best record in the NHL. I mean, potentially some records on the way. Like, what does even a loss feel like now? Like, you had successful teams obviously last season and in years past, but it's something about this season just does feel different. Like, and how does that group approach a loss. Like, what does that even mean to these guys this year?
Yeah, we get frustrated when we lose because you know what? We have a really good team. I think everyone in our room knows it, and we've been consistent and finding ways to win games even when we're not at our best. So last night we played Vancouver and we couldn't put the puck in the net, and we ended up we made a couple mistakes, had a couple turnovers in the third period, and they got two on us. We answered back with a power play goal, and we couldn't get the equalizer, and it was frustrating, because I think, guys, we've what we've done here over the past 5 years is really try and raise the bar on our performance and our consistency level. What we're getting on the offensive side of things, what we're giving up on the defensive side. So now it's funny because even now we'll win a game and we'll know that we didn't play that well, and you can see the guys are kind of frustrated and not happy with it, which I think is a real good place to be when you're trying to chase a cup. When you're considered a contender and stakes are high, you have to have high standards, and you just got to keep raising that bar because we thought we had a really good team last year and we didn't get the job done. So that's the reality of it. And now we're trying to better our performance from last year, and so far in regular season we've been doing a good job of it.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of awesome stuff there. I mean, I love that idea about standards and the commitment to them, right? And like the relentless approach, the consistency with them, because that really is the tale of a high performance team, and you guys are showing that this year. And I'm sure from a first insider's view of it, like you've seen that bar get risen, right? And you've been a part of that raising of the bar. And I know your core group has been there too, and is really showing their diligence to that whole process as well. The thing that is like, to me, is, and which is a challenging spot for you guys as a group, is this whole idea of like the results, right? Because people have bestowed you as the favorite, and it's almost like win or bust. Yet there's still a process involved. There's a lot of things that go into winning 16 games in a Stanley Cup. Like, how at this point do you separate the fact of like Stanley Cup and just continually getting better?
Well, I think you have to separate it. I mean, we know what the end goal is. We've talked in depth about it, especially early in the season, where we're trying to go. And we talked about it on purposefully because we want to make sure that, like, when I'm hard on the guys, that they're still accepting the coaching. If I'm hard on our team, I explain my reasons for that, and because it's not, we could play a Tuesday night game in Arizona, and I don't like the way we play. Well, I'll be hard on our team afterwards, and they're hard on themselves because they get the big picture. They know that it's about habits and commitment, and I'd rather play a really good hockey game from our team at this point, that we feel like we did the things we're supposed to do. Habits were good. Our compete level was good. We executed well. We run into a hot goalie or something and lose the game. To be honest, I know it sounds crazy, especially in a results-driven business, but I'd rather play a game like that and lose than play poorly and win right now, just because of where we're sitting in the standings. Because it's just like we want our guys doing the right thing all the time, and they're really working at it. It comes from the leadership in our room, like you said. Like they set a high standard. They hold guys accountable. It's just sort of the growth of and maturity of their leadership over the time that I've been here. They're all top players on our team, and they expect other guys to be playing with the same type of commitment, and they get frustrated when they're not, or when they're not at their best, because they know that the more we are, the better the habits that we have going into the playoffs. So you have to separate the outside pressure, because win or bust, that's the way I see it too. But, you know, there's going to be 16 really good teams in the playoffs. I mean, you can look at the East and say, I don't know who's winning the first round matchup between, if it started today, Toronto and Tampa, or Boston and Florida. I mean, all four of those teams are contenders for me. And we have the same thing on our side. We may finish 15, 20 points ahead of someone. It means that we were more consistent throughout the course of the whole season. But you have to look at the last 10, 20 games and say, well, they have the exact same amount of wins over us as the last 20 games. Like, we are essentially separated by small margins. And And that's why we talk about the process a lot and really try to raise that standard. And our guys have bought into it because they were disappointed last year. You know, we've lost 3 years in a row in the second round. First year, we probably weren't ready to win. Second year, we lost, 7 guys in one series to injuries, both goaltenders. And even if we had moved on, which would have been nice, we I don't know what our chances would have been like. Like our lineup was getting thin, and it just is what it is. It's a war of attrition, and last year was the disappointing one because the reason we lost is we just didn't play as well as we had played all year during that 2 weeks when we were playing Vegas. And our guys understand it, so now we're moving on to make sure that we are playing our best, come this year because it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and I guess that's really the driving force of what's driving your squad right now is because the separation for you guys is large right now. So you're really playing for each other and just playing to keep get better, And I know that this is kind of the time of the season where you can be looking forward and be looking at when are the playoffs starting and looking at that cup. But being short-sighted, I guess, in that sense is probably helpful right now just to keep the pedal to the metal. And now you have these new players that you, like you said, you got to learn the chemistry there, and it's not just. You just don't plug guys in and all of a sudden it works. We've both been on teams before and we know it's just not an automatic. So I know there's some things that have to happen there as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up, and I'm sure you saw it and you've probably been asked about it before, but old Daryl Sutter there with his comments about being a wild card team in the West and having to play you guys. Did you hear him? Did you hear him comment on that?
I did hear that. Yeah. I think Daryl's being, he's pushing the focus someplace else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's certainly a compliment. I mean, I think our guys have earned some compliments like that. There's no question. But you got to go play the games, and we know that we could be facing a really, really good team in the wild card, and that round will be tough. It'll be as tough as any other round we play. I think it is what it is. You have to find a way to win against 4 different opponents. Thankfully, you don't have to play 16. 4 is tough enough. And, our team's really trying to push to get over the hump, and we're trying to do everything in our power to be ready for that time. With the new guys coming in, and we've been experimenting even before that with, breaking up our top line and moving Landeskog to the second line with Kadri and seeing who can fit in up top and produce and still be able to check top players in case we're running into teams with 2 really deep lines. In case a team puts a checking line on the McKinnon line, then what can we do to sort of counter that? And so we're playing with all those things. We did a little bit last year. We had some options. This year, I think with some of the additions that we may have a few more options to be able to juggle our lines around so we can, win matchups through all 4 lines. And we like our goaltending. We like our D-core. Hopefully we're getting, a couple of guys back here healthy, and Gerard and Bo Byram is a guy that we've been waiting on, and he seems like he's getting close. So we've got more depth than we've had in the past, and now it'll just be sort of finding the right fit with line combinations and matchups that we like, and experiment with some things here down the stretch.
Just take a short break from the episode with Jared Bednar to remind you that Up My Hockey is not just a podcast. You can watch the podcast if you prefer on YouTube. All the episodes are recorded and placed live there. Up My Hockey is also a parent Facebook support group. Up My Hockey Parent Group, it's called. It is a request-only group, 1,500 families from across North America. You get to hear from me. You get to enjoy a community. You get some help and some assistance from other families who have been through it before on this journey called hockey. Up My Hockey is also a website, and it's also where I do my coaching. I have a Peak Performance Hockey Project, which is a mindset program, a 4-week mindset program for hockey players that is getting amazing results. It is also where you can contact me to work with your team. That is what I am really all about, and that's why this podcast exists, because I want players to be their best. I want them to reach their goals. I want them to reach their dreams. And in doing that, this podcast allows me to talk about things that I feel are very important in that growth and in that evolution for players who want to reach the highest level and want to get the most out of themselves and out of their potential. So that's www.upmyhockey.com. So yeah, Lots of places to follow the content here. I appreciate wherever you're listening today, but just realize there is other places. And I am currently actually actively trying to grow the YouTube channel, which I haven't in the past. That's where I'll post the podcast clips, the highlights. I do a segment called Lessons from a Pro there, where I will grab podcast clips or things that have happened in the NHL, and I'll break them down in my high performance mindset coach style. And I believe I give a lot of value there. So if you want to check me out on YouTube, that would be great. Now back to the episode with Jared Bednar. Let's talk about the additions. You got a Turi Lehkonen, you got Cogliano, Sturm, and Manson. Really, I mean, Joe went out and was able to do some things with prospects, so some of the players and draft picks that you didn't really know. But one of them you do know, and that was Tyson Jost, who'd been with you for a long time. Just in that small little sample, because I did watch the game last night against Vancouver, and Nico Sturm coming through the neutral zone there with the give and go and the flip over the stick and passes back door. Like, I haven't seen Nico play very much, but I was like really surprised at that. I mean, that was speed and that was skill, and he's 6'3" and 210 pounds. Like, what was that swap all about? You mean, what left the Colorado Avalanche on that day, and what came in that trade?
Well, a great teammate left, an awesome guy that was just committed to our team and just trying to get better every day and improve his game to help our team win. Like, Tyson is an unbelievable teammate. He is a hard-working guy and a great guy in our room, off the ice, in the community. And I think what that trade was about for me, it's recognizing that we had a tough time against Vegas with their size and power forwards, like trying to come to the net all the time and hunt down rebounds. They're a high shooting team, high volume shooting team, and they were just trying to get to the net all the time. And so I felt like, and Joe felt like, we could use some size back there on the back end, and guys playing low, so centermen, just use some more sturdiness to our lineup, and Tyson's not a big guy. Well, Sturmy, we have a lot of firepower and guys that can score. Obviously, we want everyone to be able to chip in offensively, but we tried to address some needs on the defensive side of things that can help push us over the top. So adding a guy like Sturm at center, who's won like defensive forward of the year 2 years in college, he's come into the NHL, done the same thing. Face-offs, we've had trouble with face-offs at times with our penalty kill, and at times just playing low in our zone and getting the puck stopped and not losing body position on big, strong guys that want to come to the net. And that's what Sturmy does. That's his bread and butter. And I feel like his offense is still can grow in the league, So he's playing on our third line right now and doing all those things we just talked about. And then we had Manson on the back end. It's almost the exact same thing on the back end. Just a guy that's hard to play against, has some sandpapers to his game. He's a decent puck mover, but he makes it tough on you. It's tough to get to the net on him. Both off the rush and D-zone coverage and penalty kill. And he's an experienced guy and wants to win and take a crack at it. And all the guys that we added are really happy to be here, but they all kind of fit the same mold. Lehkonen, great 200-foot player. He's committed to the defensive side of the game, to the checking aspect of the game, but he can chip in offensively. So we've seen a couple players on our roster sort of grow in that mold in Val Nichushkin, and now he's one of the best two-way forwards in the game for me. And if Lehkonen can do some of the things that Val does, I think it's a great add. And Cogliano, same thing, veteran guy, hard to play against, really detailed with his habits and in the structure of the game, penalty killer, experienced guy, hard in battles. Like, that's the type of thing that we felt like we needed in our bottom six, and Joe went and addressed all of it. So now it's up to us to go and get the job done.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And I just love the fact that, even though I trumpet what you just said, like that 200-foot player, it's actually been what I've been talking about and compete. Like, I've been talking about the value of that, to a team anywhere, whether you're a junior player or minor hockey player or an NHL player. And who does the Colorado Avalanche, the best team in the NHL, bring in? They bring in those guys, those pieces, right? Those pieces that are valuable and maybe don't get the headlines all the time, right? Or don't get in the 3-star selections all the time, but about these guys. Joe knows about these guys, right? They're pieces that are definitely needed. So just because I know my audience is a bit younger and these guys are coming up and everybody wants to be the power play specialist and the star forward, but the sooner you can learn your identity as a player and just really love it and own it, especially in that 200-foot capacity, like you can play almost anywhere. Isn't that true?
That's totally true. And that's where, like, I'll go back to Tyson Jost on that. Like, he came in, almost every guy you have on your team in the NHL was their team's best player, leading scorer, power play, half wall guy, whatever it is, right? And Tyson was no different. And he came in, so you give him the opportunity. Those young guys come in, they make your team, and you're going to give them every opportunity to see if these guys can do it. Now, we've got some superstars on our team, right? So the first power play fills up, but Tyson Jost was a part of that for a year and a half. Then he went to the second power play, and our team gets better and better, and we get more skilled, and guys that are just, have made a career at putting pucks in the net and filling those roles, and he kind of gets pushed down the lineup a little bit. Well, what does he do? He doesn't sulk or start whining or complaining about it. He just wants to know what can I do to help our team win. Next thing you know, he's third line center, killing penalties, like doing all the things, just and really paying attention to it, like coming in for video and looking at the defensive side of the game and still like working on his offensive output. I mean, and that's what you have to do. You gotta be adding tools to your toolbox, because your roster changes every year. And yeah, some guys keep doing the same thing year after year, but sometimes, you get additions in, and you just don't slot right in where you thought you might, or where you have your whole life. So now there's a learning curve there, and
Yeah.
players have to do that. And I mean, we have a lot of guys that can play the power play, but at the end of the day, there's only 10 spots, and five of those spots are only seeing 30 seconds for each power play. You know what I mean? So that's where the points come. So you got to try and make sure the rest of your game is solid. And that for me starts with the defending details and your commitment to check.
Yeah, I mean that adaptability is definitely a skill as a player. Not everyone's willing to do it. And I think, I didn't want I will take it this direction just for a second because it's so part of like my platform and what I talk about. But that idea that Tyson Jost was like, I think he was 10th overall his year, right? And he was definitely the BCHL's leading scorer that year, putting the puck in the net. So when the Colorado drafted him in that position, I doubt the projection was third line penalty kill center, right? I mean, they probably saw maybe some or hoped of maybe a little more upside. Now, sometimes guys can do it and they just haven't been given the opportunity. You said he was given the opportunity there, but then some other guys came in. Like, do you think that this transition might allow Tyson to evolve a little bit more in a different role with Minnesota?
Oh, I certainly think so. Yeah, I think that can happen. Guys mature. Like Tyson's a way better player now than when he came in for us. And our team has just gotten so much better than when my first year and Tyson's first year when he came in. It's just, we added veteran players that are really good at what they do. And like guys like Nazem Kadri comes in, right? Burakovsky, like these guys come in and they put the puck in the net on a consistent basis. And then then we're drafting other guys. Like we have Newhook in here now, and he was kind of, the same thing. He's been the best player on every team he's played on, and here he is now playing with us. So it's just it's the way the game goes, and that's why you have to. One team you could play one role, and then you'd be given an opportunity someplace else and flourish in that role. You just never know. We certainly wish the best for him. He gave us 5 really good years here, and like I said, he's a great teammate. I think for us, it was filling a need. I hate to see him go, but filling a need, for a big, strong fourth line center that is really dialed into the checking aspect of it and penalty kill aspect of it is valuable for us.
Right. Just briefly on the trade deadline, what type of communication, and I imagine it's different in every organization, so you can only speak to the one you're in. But as far as addressing those needs and then filling them, is that something that you're in a conversation with Joe, or is Joe doing that in his own, or what is that? What does that look like behind the scenes there come deadline day?
Yeah, well, you're talking all year long on what you're seeing from your players, what you think you need, who's playing well in this role, who's playing well in that role. Hey, why don't you try this here? Like, we're open to all the feedback and input we can get in case there's something that we haven't thought of. So you get to the point to the trade deadline, you're really seeing your team the same way. Joe, myself, the other coaches and management team, we all kind of know what we have and what maybe we can need. Um, and so they'll be doing all their work behind the scenes, and for us, they'll call down and ask if we have time over the next couple days, take a look at some video on, Lekanen, watch some of his games. And then our assistant coaches will watch games. I'll watch games. We'll all kind of put our feedback in what we think we're getting out of Lekanen, if that's something that comes our way, and that's all of our input. Like, we don't go say, hey, go get this guy or that guy. Like, we have some conversations and fun and that around the room. It would be nice to have this guy. I heard he's on the market, but there is when they sort of identify guys that they think could be a possibility to be moved, they'll ask us to watch them. We'll watch a lot of guys some years, and other years it might just be two or three guys.
Yeah.
Because if they're on the move, then they have to make their decisions on what's the price tag to get them and what's it going to cost us, and where do we. But I think Joe is really open. He doesn't want to go get a guy if if I'm not going to use him the way that he thinks he should be used, or so we like to get on the same page there first. So when we're getting a guy, we've already talked about how we can use him and how he can help and who he could play with and who he can match up against, kind of thing.
Right. So you mentioned Nazem Kadri. Maybe we'll talk about him for a second, because he's having a career year. I mean, I don't even know where he is right now, but he was top 5 in the NHL for a while. I didn't look before we got on the podcast, and I have watched him a few times this year, and he looks different to me too. Like, he's playing with a different level of poise than I've seen out of him. What do you think has been the biggest transition for him this year? What do you see for the growth in his game?
I think honestly, I think it's the consistency in his, like, I don't want to say compete level, but in his, like, he has to play. Naz has to play with a certain amount of grit and determination, right? He is what I consider, as skilled as he is, he's a power forward, and when he's skating and he's determined and he's competitive and he's checking the right way, and he's dialed in like that, his offensive game just takes care of itself, and like so many players, I think if you go and just try to skill your way through a game, it doesn't work out as successfully as if you're out there playing hard, playing for keeps. And we've seen flashes of it from Naz. Like, Naz has been a good player for us for a couple of years, but this year he's elite. I think he's leading our team in scoring right now with 76 or 77 points, and it's far and above a career year for him. And he just keeps playing the same way. It's like every night I know exactly what to expect from him. Every once in a while, like any player, you're gonna have a bad night, but it's just right back to really determined hockey, and then his skill is just shining through,
That's
and
cool.
he's finding a way to put the puck in net. Gets us a big goal last night to get us within one again, and we have a couple chances to tie it, and we just didn't get it done. But he's a guy that I really rely on this year heavily in a bunch of different areas.
Yeah, and that's probably, I find, and I don't know if you find that too, but those types of players that have to find that line, and especially when they're having success offensively, like, their identity can waver even, right? Because then they can think that they are somebody that they're not, meaning maybe he falls away from the grit aspect a little bit, right? And that competitive nature, because he thinks he's more of a perimeter player or whatever. I'm just using words, right? Because you're producing points. So you kind of feel like, oh, this is how I'm going to do it. And you forget what actually got you there in the first place. I don't know if that is where he wavers sometimes, but he's definitely a competitor. And maybe that's a good bridge to get to Nathan, because we all know Naz had some issues in the playoffs because he is such a competitor and has got himself into trouble. This year, we haven't really seen that out of him. Yet with Nathan, there's been a couple scenarios where maybe a little bit out of character for him. And last night I mentioned before we got on, he took that little cross check on Hughes there, kind of, ended up going to the box, didn't hurt you guys. But I've seen more of that out of Nathan this year. Do you like that competitive fire with him, or do you think that's something that he's got to watch out a little bit more, or how are you feeling that's rolling with him?
you know what, for me, as long as, so I didn't like the penalty last night. Like, no coach wants to go down and be shorthanded and give, the other team's best players the opportunity to come on the ice. So retaliatory penalties or, taking shots at guys when the game is really close is not a recipe for success. But for me, like, he is highly competitive, physical player, hard to play against in all aspects, and I love the fire in players. Like, I want them to be, I want them to walk the line of taking penalties, but I want them to play with passion. I think the game has to be played with passion. Same thing with Naz. Like, Naz takes a penalty in the St. Louis, and it's a bad hit. It's a timing thing. It's right in the scoring area. He's finishing a check, and he gets a suspension. That really hurt us. But he had played, a whole year without doing anything that, like, it's not like he's doing it all the time for us anyway. We talked about it when he first got here. We haven't talked about it since. That's one instance, one split second decision, and he made the wrong one, and he caught Falk high, and he gets suspended for it. But it hurt us as a team, and he was aware of it. I would have loved to have him playing, and that's a big change, big hole to fill when you lose your number 2 center against a series with Vegas with the depth that they have, right? So, and Nathan, same thing. I want him to play with passion. I want him to be fiery. I want him to be physical. I want him to, like, hand out more than he takes, when it comes to the physicality and the hits and everything else. I think that's what makes him good, like, that's what makes him a top player in the world, because he is so competitive and he hates to lose. And I would rather have to try and tone a guy down a little bit than have to be sitting there trying to rev him up every night to get ready to compete at a level that it takes to have success.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have for sure, and I couldn't agree more with you as far as that competitive fire. You want to see that, and I suppose just from a bystander, even if I was just a fan, or maybe even if I was his coach, like, I would want a little bit more of the initiation instead of the retaliation.
Yeah.
That's where I'd try and shove him a little bit, because the last couple I've sort of seen him feels maybe like he's feeling a little bit like a victim, and I don't like players looking like that. I want him just to be playing hard. But it was interesting because that thing with Matthews, when he got suspended too, like a lot of players were saying, or a lot of pundits were saying, that was the best thing he could have done. He finally responded and stuck up for himself. Maybe that was something that he needed to do. So, anyways, I don't see Nate playing on a nightly basis. I don't see how many liberties guys are taking against him. Sometimes you do have to stand up for yourself. It's just the way it is, right? Because maybe nobody else is doing it for him. But just want to take a short break, and this break is brought to you by Verbero.com. Verbero is your one-stop shop for online hockey products. Verbero makes top quality equipment and apparel, and also sticks, which is one of my personal favorite products from Verbero, and was one of the big reasons why I became an ambassador for the brand. I use them myself. I've used it for a year. The stick is light. The stick is well balanced. The stick is durable, and it is right up there, if not better than all the top line sticks on the market today. Yet you get them at a discount. One of the things I'm most excited about is they just released their youth, junior, and intermediate brands. They used to only have it in the senior models, but now they bring it down into flexes all the way down to a 15 flex. 15, 25, 35, 45 is how they do their flex patterns. They have all the traditional curves that you would find in a Bauer or a CCM. And again, you're going to get a top quality stick at a discounted price, especially right now when they have their buy 2 or buy 3 and get 15 to 20% off. For listening today, you get an additional 5% off from me with the promo code PADOLAN. So if you use PODOLLAN when you order your Verbero stick, you will get an extra 5%. You'll actually get a 5% off anything that you purchase in the online store if you purchase PADOLAN. So if you want to get back to the podcast, if you appreciate the podcast, and if you also have a hockey player that wants good equipment or needs a new stick, Verbero is the place to go. That's VERBERO.com or .ca. I will put the link in my show notes. But very good brand. You will be more than happy with the product that you get. Now back to the episode with Jared Bednar. I know you're pressed for time here, so I want to definitely talk about Cale Makar, because I heard one of your broadcasters the other day on the NHL Network call him the best player in the National Hockey League, which I mean, it just kind of struck me, and then I was like, yeah, maybe he is actually. Like
Yeah.
to have him be put in that line, like with that type of subtitle, is that something that you think is he there yet, or can he be there?
Yeah, I think he can. If he's, I mean, you can make an argument for it right now this season. I mean, it's really tough to compare an elite defenseman to a guy that's ripping in 40 plus goals a year, or guys putting up 100 points that are playing a great two-way game. I don't know how you compare them. It's really impossible. But the growth in his game and the time that he's been here, the weight that he sort of takes on within our group, and how much pressure he puts on himself and people around him put on him to have success and help lead our team to success, it's incredible. And he's a young player, and he's such a humble, uh, just hard-working, quiet, determined competitor. And then to see him sort of have the success he's had this year, like, I've been in awe of him in a lot of different ways for a couple years, and all of a sudden this year he just takes it to a whole new level, a little bit like Kadri. But I think he's in the process of still feeling out, like, who he's playing against, what he can do, and I mean, he has nights where it's just like you're just standing there going, "Wow, that was great," you know, and scoring big goals. I mean, I think he has 20 plus 22 goals already. I mean, you just don't hear of defensemen putting up those kind of numbers. And so the growth in his game for us was, you take a look at Hedman, leads his team in power play ice time, penalty kill ice time, 5-on-5 ice time, and we're like, you know what? That's where you got to go. You have to start killing penalties. It was tough for Kale, I think, when he first came in the league, and he's a go 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 guy. That like 20 minutes was a push for him. I felt like you could see a little drop off in his game at 19, 20 minutes, and the next year it was 22, 23 minutes. Now he's consistently playing 25, 26, 27, and I think that's what good players do. They learn to let the game come to him a little bit more. If there's nothing happening, then pick your spots, and he's still go go go, but he's just now, he's maturing it, his body and training, and that, and now he's killing penalties for us. His physicality in his game is ramped up. The defending details are improving. Like, he's becoming a really, really good all-around defenseman. He's just not a guy that runs our power play and is dynamic and can score and pass. Like, he's the full package.
Yeah, he's just fun to watch. I mean, like, I could imagine that group that you have. Like, it'd be hard not to get caught up and just be a fan at moments, right? Like you said, like, wow, that was good. Like, there's so much stuff that's going on out there that you're like, wow, that's good. It's just fun to watch when you have that much talent in front of you, and also you get to see the growth of them as humans and as players. I imagine too. Is for Kale, I mean, he was heralded as this offensive genius. I mean, his edges are ridiculous. I've never really seen a guy move the way he moves, like the angles he can attack at and change from, and so quickly is beyond impressive. But yeah, I was trying to critique him, but it seems like he knows his way around his own end real well too. But has that been the biggest growth of his game, like to figure out that side of the puck?
Yeah, I think it is, because, I mean, guys, I mean, throughout teams' lineups, they're hard to play against. Like, there's teams that they do not want to give up the puck in the offensive zone. They'll protect it, and counterflow it, and drive it low, and kick it high, and then try to beat you off the boards to the net. Like, as a defender, that forward or D, that's hard to play against. Like, it's teams that, like, get fancy and throw hope plays into the middle that you're knocking down because you're in good coverage and you're just following guys around the ice or sitting in your team structure. That's easier to play against. So when you play teams that really want to come after you and make you work to defend, and I think that was probably the game plan of a lot of teams playing us. Like, force them to defend. If you don't want to have to defend them on the rush and in offensive zone, then let's force them to defend more. So we're going to take care of the puck, right? So we have to understand that as a team, and Kale has to understand that as a defenseman. The better you are there and the more explosive you are down low at separating guys from the puck and grabbing it, and your line mates are, the more you're going to go play offense. And that's in the reality of it. That's why his numbers are growing too. You know, our team's getting better at doing that, and we're getting to play offense more. So we're getting better at our breakouts, better at our D zone, you know, all the checking aspects, which kind of gets you the puck more and allows you to go play to your strengths. But you have to be committed to that other side of it, or you're just not going to get to play offense as much as you want.
Yeah. And he's I think that he's shown that he can take the abuse. I mean, because the other thing, like you said, I mean, how are you going to stop the Colorado Avalanche? Well, one of the ways is, well, let's try and stop Cale Makar, right? Like, let's not want him to want the puck, or let's relieve him of the puck. And a lot of times, as you know, in playoffs, it's when you get heavy and he gets more physical. But I've seen him take hits, and I've seen him obviously evade a ton of them too, because he's such a great skater. But I don't see him shying away from any type of physical competitiveness at all, which I think is kind of the most impressive. Because a lot of times those guys, as we both know, the offensive guys, maybe, you know, that's where they don't want to get their elbows any holes in their jerseys, right? But I don't see that from him at all.
No, not at all. He is, I mean, his skating is clearly his best asset, right? So, I mean, when you have a guy that's his size that can skate the way he can, he is solid. Like, he reverse hits guys, he catches guys. They might not be expecting, because he has the ability just to strike on you and take the puck, right, without contact. And sometimes he does. You know, it's his read. Can I just swipe on it and take it and get going the other way with my speed, or is this a chance to get a lick on someone? Like, he'll dish it out and he'll take it. And if you're not ready when you're coming to hit him, he'll catch you with a reverse hit and you get going the other way. And you know, that I think that's what the great players. You know, another defenseman that really has impressed me, and we saw him a couple times, is that Mo Seider in Detroit. And he just reverse hit a guy that was coming in. I mean, the guy was coming all the way across ice right in the hit zone at the red line when he's carrying it to the red, trying to get a big lick on him, and he just throws his shoulder into him. The guy went flying. Like, the guys that can skate and play and that are intelligent like that, like Cale and Seider, I mean, they're hard to play against. It's not an easy game.
Yeah, that Mo's a big boy. He's going to be a good one for sure. What does Cale weigh these days? Like, I know the hockey card is never a true indicator, but what's he playing at right now?
Oh, I think he's 200. He's 200 plus.
Yeah. He's filled
Fit.
out then.
But yeah, he's strong.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I mean, I know you got to go pick up the daughter there, so I'll let you run, Bedsy. But of course, all the best. If we don't talk before the playoffs start, your team is very entertaining to watch, and it's awesome to see their growth. And you know that I wish nothing but the best for you guys. I'll be rooting for you guys going forward.
Thanks, Podsy. Appreciate you having me on again. Great, always great. You know, catching up with you and chatting.
Fantastic, partner. Good luck.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to the entire episode of Up My Hockey. Anytime you have a head coach of any NHL team, for that matter, it is very humbling, and I'm very grateful for that. But when you actually have on the head coach of the best team in the National Hockey League, that even is more reason to be grateful. So, loves Jared's approach. He's such an easy guy to have a conversation with. I know he'd be phenomenal to play for. I love his style of communication. Very open with why he has these high standards and what he wants from his players. Because sometimes a good head coach will see things that the players themselves don't even see. And you create these standards, and you create these envelopes for these players to step into, and that's what he's done there with the Colorado Avalanche. You see people growing on a yearly basis, and even on a monthly basis, like the growth of Cale Makar and the growth of even the stars like, you know, Nathan McKinnon and Gab Landeskog and Rantanen. These players are rounding out their games. They're superstars in the NHL, but they're becoming great at every aspect of the game. And when this team has come together in the way it has, it really is a juggernaut. It's tough to not appreciate the product they put on the ice. So I wish nothing but the best for the Colorado Avalanche and Jared Bednar and Nolan Pratt and the rest of the coaching staff there, and Joe Sakic and the team he's put together. It's a really fun product to watch on the ice. They're a competitive group, play with a high level of skill and a high level of speed. And if you're not a Colorado Avalanche fan, you might as well watch some of the hockey anyways, because the style of game they play, it's impossible not to be a fan of that. So all the best to the Colorado Avalanche. I hope that they do get out of the West and make a deep run. Would love to see them get to a Stanley Cup final, and I would love to see Jared Bednar with a ring on his finger, and all those other players there that have been battling so hard for the last few years now. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for listening to the end. Until next time, play hard and keep your head up.